Because if you're black and mediocre in America, you better leave. Because you're going to be marginalized in this country and you will ultimately be destroyed. Anytime you put the education of your children in the hands of people who have historically oppressed you, you have made a mistake. We have made a mistake. You see what has happened to urban education, and they were in charge. So we're going to have to man up, and we're going to have to woman up and do the work that we're supposed to do, and then be patient. Be patient. I'm going to ask a rhetorical question. I know you know the answer to this question. How do you, or what do you think the reason was that we survived slavery? We overcame slavery. 250 years of the most oppressive, the most egregious oppression ever heaped on any human beings in the history of humankind. How do you think, and what do you think the reason was that we did that without guns or money?
What's up YouTube fam? Welcome back to my space. This is Israel. Guys, thank you so much for tuning to watch today's video. We want to talk about black empowerment today, and to speak to us today is George Fraser. You cannot mention black empowerment and fail to mention the works of George Fraser. He's one person who's been so instrumental in trying to push black folks to try and build a world that would help them and their generations. He even built a platform, the FraserNet networking platform, where black individuals, entrepreneurs, leaders, and any other black professionals come together and link up, to just get to empower each other. Those are some of the goals that George Fraser has for the black community. He says enough is enough of the crying. It's time that we fight for power. We fight the black the black community may be able to be empowered economically. So Dr. George C. Fraser is a renowned speaker, author, and entrepreneur dedicated to empowering black Americans, particularly in the areas of networking, wealth building, and leadership. His work emphasizes economic self-sufficiency, entrepreneurship, and community collaboration as essential strategies for black empowerment. So guys, I wanted to watch this video of Dr. George Fraser. Once the video is done, we will get back and do a critical analysis about the same. Let's watch this together, fam.
I will not be saying anything that you haven't heard before, except tonight you're going to hear it differently, understanding that everything happens for a reason and serves us, right? So you're going to hear it differently. That's the most important thing. I'm writing a new book. The name of the book is Negro Please, N-E-G-R-O-W. Please, P-L-E-A-Z, please. And if you've written books, this is my 6th book. I'm writing number 6 and 7. Number 7 will be out in 2017. Number 6 will be out in 2016. And I'm going to read to you my preliminary notes for the foreword. So you will be the first to hear something from this new book. I believe that African Americans are at a pivotal point in history. The world is not waiting for us to wake up to our power. It is time for African Americans to take a seat at the table, not only in America, but also in the global economy. Unfortunately, we continue to place our power in the hands of those that have historically oppressed us, and even worse, we continue to oppress each other. This is the meaning of internalized oppression. To continue to fall into the cultural hypnosis of thinking that white America controls our lives is a true abdication of our personal power. The reality is that each and every day is an opportunity for us to create a new and powerful story in our culture, and unless we find a way to write this story, to claim our power, there will be devastating implications for our community and the world. In other words, there is no one to save us but us. The fantastic news is that as people of African descent, we possess enormous untapped creativity and potential as individuals and as a collective network. And once we fully tap into what makes us tick, what unleashes performance in our culture, we will assume our rightful place on the global stage. Let me say that differently. White folks have done all they're going to do for black people. I hope you understand that. We have freedom, civil rights, voting rights, and public access. We will not be getting white people's money. You will have to kill them first, and you ain't killing them. That means we're going to have to compete with them. And if we're going to compete with white people to take what is most dear and important to them, money, which they perceive as power, we're going to have to ramp up our game. We're going to have to be deeply committed to personal growth and development, constant never-ending improvement, and lifelong learning. We're going to have to be amazing at whatever it is that we do. Now, your parents and my parents said to us that we are going to have to be twice as good to get half as much. You remember your parents telling you that? Well, they were right then, and they're still right. Because if you're black and mediocre in America, you better leave. Because you're going to be marginalized in this country, and you will ultimately be destroyed. Anytime you put the education of your children in the hands of people who have historically oppressed you, you have made a mistake. We have made a mistake. You see what has happened to urban education, and they were in charge. So we're going to have to man up, and we're going to have to woman up and do the work that we're supposed to do, and then be patient. Be patient. I'm going to ask a rhetorical question. I know you know the answer to this question. How do you, or what do you think the reason was that we survived slavery? We overcame slavery. 250 years of the most oppressive, the most egregious oppression ever heaped on any human beings in the history of humankind. How do you think, and what do you think the reason was that we did that without guns or money? Very simple answer.
Well, I think that black people were very tenacious, and they had faith in God that things will eventually get better.
Good. But I'll say it simple. You're right. We were right. They were wrong. And whenever you're operating out of goodness and righteousness, you will always win. We were right, and they were wrong. How do you think we overcame or we achieved civil rights, voting rights, and public access? 1864 to 1964. It took us 100 years. It took us 5 generations. How were we able to do that? Without guns or money. Same answer. We were right. They were wrong. So this is why I know what we're talking about, what this whole symposium is about, will ultimately manifest itself because we're right and they're wrong. It will just take time. It will take time. A couple of things are going to happen, and we're going to have to speak these things into our people. And you heard I said speak them into our people because we learn differently. We are oral, auditory, visual, kinesthetic, and tactile learners. Nearly 30 years ago, I started a company called FraserNet. After 20 years in leadership positions in the public and private sector, 13 years as an executive with Procter & Gamble, 3 years as vice president of United Way of America, and 2 years as an executive with Ford. And then at 42 years old, I pivoted and started my own business after I learned my skills at the feet of the masters at whatever it is that they were doing. In the area of branding and marketing, Procter & Gamble is a beast. They are the best on the planet. What am I most proud of in my 13 years at Procter & Gamble? Not all the awards that I won. I'm not bragging, I'm just telling you what it is. What am I most proud of? The 67 African Americans I got into Procter & Gamble during my 13 years as an executive with Procter & Gamble, of which several are now vice presidents and group vice presidents. Many left Procter & Gamble after many years and did exactly what I did. That's what I'm most proud of in my 20 years of working for the man, is the opportunity I provided personally for 67 people that look like me. I was not, like so many, the spook who sat by the door. So 30 years ago, we started FraserNet. I started FraserNet. What is FraserNet? We are a principle-centered global leadership network of 61,000 top black professionals, business owners, and community leaders. We are focused on economic development through education, training, and empowerment for black people. That's what I've committed my life to. Our focus is to train and to educate and to equip black people with new skills, new thinking, and new approaches for personal, professional, and financial success in the 21st century. We have two goals that we have been working on for 28 years. There are only two things that we have been focused on. Neither of them have anything to do with civil rights or social justice. They have to do with silver rights, S-I-L-V-E-R, and power. We have plenty of wonderful organizations, of which I speak for all the time, from the NAACP to the Urban League to SCLC to the Congressional Black Caucus. This was my 41st time speaking at the Congressional Black Caucus last year. They do wonderful work on social justice and civil rights, but that's not what I'm focused on. That's not what the 61,000 people in my network are focused on. We have two objectives that will take black people 100 years to achieve. It will take us 3 to 5 generations to achieve these two objectives. And once we achieve them, we will take our people to the next level. What are those two objectives? First is to help black people build wealth that can be transferred intergenerationally. We're not poor, we're just broke. Our money goes in one direction, away from us, and we're some of America's most conspicuous consumers. We are a $1.1 trillion annual economy. If we were a nation, we would be the 16th richest nation in the entire world. But again, our money goes in one direction, away from us, and we're some of America's most conspicuous consumers. And we will not stop buying from people who will not support us. We are addicted vis-a-vis television and advertising and Madison Avenue to consumption. We do not produce anything that we buy, and we do not sell anything that we purchase. We just consume. We are the pistons to America's consumption engine. There was an interesting article on the front page of USA Today not long ago. I hope you saw this article. Fortunately, it was below the fold. It was about black people, baby boomers, us, and our money. And here's what this article said about Negroes in America. The black baby boomers will be the first generation of Africans in America to raise another generation of Africans in America that will not do better than them. So in the 400-year history of our people, Mr. Hill, in this country, we are the only generation to raise another generation that will be worse off. We collectively need our asses kicked. And you can count me out of that. I will not contribute to that egregious statistic. And neither must you. So the conferences and the workshops and the seminars and the websites and all the work that we have been doing are focused on how to build wealth and to manage it in such a way so that it can be transferred to future generations. That's what everybody in our network is focused on. Now, I said 61,000, right? That sounds like a lot of black people. It's not a lot of black people. When you consider that I've been at this for 30 years, I've written 5 best-selling books, I've given over 2,000 speeches, and I've traveled 8.5 million miles. So 61,000 as a percentage of 44 million black people, because that's how many are in America, is but a fraction of a percent. A fraction. We have a lot of work to do. But that does not discourage me, nor should it discourage you. Because it has always been a few of our people that have taken the masses of our people to the promised land. So I'm not discouraged by that. So that is one goal, to help us to build wealth that could be transferred intergenerationally, to solve the economic illiteracy problem in Black America. We are an economically illiterate people, as evidence on how we spend our money and what we do with our money. Let me give you a couple of examples, real-time retail examples. I don't know what BMW does for black people. I speak all over this country, every major black conference on the planet. I don't see BMW. I don't see BMWs in historically black newspaper ads. I don't hear BMWs on black radio. I don't see BMW ads on black television. I don't know what BMW does. I speak at 30 historically black colleges a year. I don't see no plaques with BMW's name on it. I don't hear about any BMW scholarships to historically black colleges. I know what Ford does. I know what Toyota does. I know what General Motors does. I know what Chrysler does. But I don't know what BMW does. But we buy more BMWs, black people, per capita, than any cultural group in America. Let me say that differently. If you're going to give me all of your money and expect nothing in return, I am simply going to take all of your money and give you nothing in return. So here's what BMW tells black advertising agencies. How do I know? Because I was a part of one. When they go to BMW and say, listen, you're selling more cars to our people than some of the best automobile companies in America that are doing all kinds of things in the black community. Can you set aside a budget for special events, for advertising in black media, etc.? They said, no, absolutely not. We don't need to give black people anything. They're going to buy our cars anyway. We don't have to do anything special. They're buying it anyway. So we get nothing from BMW, millions from Toyota, millions from Ford, and we keep buying BMWs. That's on us. White folks can't fix that. We have to fix that. So, it's consciousness. It's consciousness. People often ask me, Dr. Fraser, can you give me an example of the intergenerational transfer of wealth right now in your face today? Something that I can relate to. Sure. You have a very bright daughter, very bright son. They graduate from high school and they qualify to go to Harvard, Yale, Morehouse, Spelman. Will you be able to pay for your child's education, or will you stick them with a $200,000 college bill when they graduate from college? That's the intergenerational transfer of wealth right now. You have a beautiful son or daughter. They decide to engage and get married with someone that you really like. Are you able, as Jewish people are able to do, buy your son or daughter their first home? Can you put a down payment on your son or daughter's first home? That's the intergenerational transfer of wealth right now. We must fix this in the 21st century because the overwhelming majority of us cannot do that. What is the second thing that we're working on? We're working on helping black people become the #1 employer of black people by the end of the 21st century. Why? Because we must create work and jobs for our people, because that's the only way to raise up the poor. Jews are the #1 employer of Jews. Asians are the #1 employer of Asians. East Indians are the #1 employer of East Indians. Arabs are the #1 employer of Arabs. And every immigrant group that has ever come to this country understands this but us. We too, ultimately, within the next 100 years, must become the #1 employer of our own people. The Asian population has solved their own unemployment problem by one simple thing: Chinese restaurants. You ever go into a Chinese restaurant, which are all over America and especially where we live, and be served by anything other than a Chinese person? In fact, if you go into a Chinese restaurant and there are 4 brothers working in there, leave. Something is seriously wrong. It ain't a Chinese restaurant. I don't know what it is, but it ain't a Chinese restaurant, because they employ only their own people. By the way, that employment in just Chinese restaurants, and if you meet most of them, I love Chinese food and I always talk with the waiters and waiters. Most of them are in college. Lots of them are coming from China and just immigrating here into the United States, and they need it. They employ about 2 million of their own people just in their Chinese restaurants. By the way, we don't have any of those. We don't have any chain black-owned restaurants. We don't even own the fried chicken stuff that we invented. And nobody made fried chicken better than black people. But we do not own the franchise to fried chicken. So, we must create work and jobs for our people, because that's the only way to raise up the poor. Now, those are the 2 things that we are working on. Alongside of teaching and training our people, because that's really what our conference is about. Our conference is a training conference. The Power Networking Conference is a training conference. We do not pontificate ad nauseum about our issues. Our people need training. Okay? But alongside of the training to improve their subject matter expertise, to improve their business, to improve their career path, is leadership training, because our people need leadership training. And so we need new kinds of leaders. We talked about that earlier, Mr. Hill. No longer do we need what I call transactional leaders or transitional leaders. We need transformational leadership in the context of our community. And our transformational leaders are our servant leaders. And our servant leaders, they are the most humble, the most reverent, the most open, the most teachable, the most respectful, and the most caring leaders in our community. And our servant leaders must operate around a new definition of leadership. So I've redefined what I believe leadership must be for us in the 21st century. I think to be a leader in the black community in the 21st century, you must be awake and alert and dissatisfied at all times. Let me repeat that for you. This is my definition of leader. To be awake, alert, and dissatisfied at all times. Oh yes, we've come a long way, but we have much further to go. Therefore, I am not happy, but I am motivated by a positive anger directed towards positive change. What do we know about change? We know that you will never change that which you tolerate, and you will only change when you get angry. Malcolm was angry. Garvey was angry. Dr. King was angry. Mandela was angry. Harriet Tubman was angry. We are not angry. If Dr. King would have come back here today, nearly 50 years after his death, he would be ecstatic that Barack Hussein Obama is president. He predicted it. But he would say to black people, is this what I took a bullet for? We are at the bottom of every single statistic that matters in America, and we came over here on the Mayflower. And I don't even want to get into the statistics. You know what they are. I know you know because you're sitting here. Half of our women will not be able to get married. 72% of our children are born out of wedlock. We have more black men in prison on probation and parole than in black colleges. And it goes on and on and on. Yes, we have made significant progress since slavery. Oh yeah. But that ain't the question. The question is, how much progress have we made as compared to white people? Not since slavery. What do our numbers look like? What does our median household wealth and income look like as compared to white people? Not as compared to when we were picking cotton for nothing or sharecropping. Sure, we've made progress since then, but how does that compare to our white counterpart? Well, it doesn't compare in any category you can name. Much of it is from institutionalized racism, systemic racism. There are lots of reasons, and much of this conference is discussed the battles to overcome those reasons. We must fix this. Leadership is action. Leadership is influence. Parenthood, by the way, I believe is the most important leadership responsibility that we will have in life, and it will provide the greatest levels of joy and happiness, and no other success can compensate for failure at home. I believe it begins there. If you screw up your children, you have just written your ticket to a living hell. I promise you. And we're not doing well with this. So I'm going to give you a new measure by which we can call success when it comes to our children. So, because we've got to reduce this down and simplify this so that we will have a measurement that we can look at and feel that we can attain. Here is a new measurement. Here is the new success today for raising a black child.
Fam, I always tell people that my channel endeavors to ensure that black folks, number one, know their history, that black folks, secondly, are empowered, and black folks get to unify. That's why I do videos of black Americans. The goal has always been for black folks all over the world to unify. Our unity will be the end of white oppression. And family, as you've heard from Dr. George Fraser, our empowerment is something that is very, very essential, you know, in this quest of trying to be powerful people in the world. Dr. George C. Fraser says, African Americans, the world is not waiting for us to wake up to our power. It's time for us to take a seat on this table. We continue to place our power to people who've historically oppressed us, and even we ourselves are oppressing each other. each and every day is an opportunity for us to create a new and powerful story in our culture, and unless we find a way to write this story to claim our power, there will be implications for our community and the world. How do we claim this power as a people? I think the easiest way for us to claim it is by ensuring that individually we are pushing ourselves, ensuring that we are responsible people, ensuring that we are trying to be somewhere economically. We are creating opportunities for other black people. That way we can easily gain power. Black folks coming out of schools and creating ventures that would instead employ other black folks. The black community is slowly starting to build, an economic community for the black folk. That way we can easily depend on ourselves, and that is just but a start to black power, and it is possible. There is no one to save us but us. White folks have done all they are going to do for black people. We have freedom, civil rights, voting rights, and public access. We are going to have to compete with the white people and take what is dear and so important to them, which is money, which they perceive as power. We're going to have to be deeply committed to personal growth and development. We are going to have to be amazing in whatever we do. We first must push ourselves, personal growth. We must be committed. Then if you're a black and mediocre in America, then you better leave. You cannot be black and mediocre in America. You're going to be marginalized in this country, and you're going to be destroyed. Anytime you put the education of your children in the hands of people who have historically oppressed you, you've made a mistake. We are going to have to man up and do the work we are supposed to do and be patient. Why do you even think that black folks, survived slavery? Why do you think? We overcame slavery, 250 years of the most oppressive event ever in the history of the human beings. We did it without guns and money. What do you think is the reason for us to even be able, to thrive out of this slavery? We were right and they were wrong. When you're operating in goodness and righteousness, you will always win. Family, it's about us being good. When you're operating in goodness, you'll always thrive. Even in the quest for us to try and gain this power, in the quest for us to try and improve ourselves, we must do things the right way, because we were right and they were wrong. That's why we were actually able, to survive slavery. When you're operating in goodness and righteousness, you'll always win. How do you think we even achieved the Civil War? How do you think we achieved the civil rights, the voting rights and the public access between 1865 and 1964? Took us over 100 years, 5 generations without guns and money. We were right and they were wrong. Family, I went further to do more research in regards to Dr. George Fraser's work when it comes to empowering black folks. And here's what I found out. And these are some of the key themes, that he's been trying to push. Self-sufficiency, entrepreneurship, and community collaboration. And here are some of the key themes, in his works. Number one is economic empowerment. He advocates for financial literacy, group economics, and entrepreneurship as pathways to black wealth. His motto is own or be owned, highlighting the importance of asset ownership. Fam, you better own or be owned, and we've been owned for the longest time ever by the white supremacists. Now it's better for us to own, as black folks. Let us be economically empowered. Let us create opportunities amongst ourselves. Let us create employment for other black people. Then number two is networking and social capital. Fraser emphasizes the power of relationships, mentorship, and professional networking, especially through his organization, FraserNet, which connects black professionals and entrepreneurs. Black people come. There's a network known as the FraserNet by Dr. George Fraser, where you just come and network. Black people getting opportunities from other black folks. These are just some of the ways that networking would help the black people, and these instead will help us thrive out of this oppression. The number three is leadership development. He believes that self-discipline, vision, and continuous learning are crucial for leadership within the black community. Number 4 is wealth building strategies. Fraser encourages investing in real estate, business ownership, and cooperative economics, recycling dollars within the black community. Number 5 is education and legacy building. He promotes lifelong learning and passing down knowledge, wealth, and values to future generations. Here are some of the notable books, notable works that George Fraser has done, you know, in the quest for trying to ensure that black folks are empowered. Number 1 book is Success Runs in Our Race, The Complete Guide to Effective Networking in the African American Community, 1994, a foundational book on the importance of networking of black success, for black success. Then we have The Click, 10 Truths for Building Extraordinary Relationships, 209, a guide to building strong, meaningful connections. Then there's the FraserNet's Power Networking Conference, where a premier event that brings together black professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders for networking and business development. Guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Kindly do consider liking this video so that it can be recommended to other YouTube users. You can as well comment down below. Let me know what you think of Dr. George Fraser's works when it comes to black empowerment. Last but not least, kindly do consider subscribing to the channel. We are currently on the road to 50,000 subscribers, and we cannot do it without your support. Thank you, fam, and see you all in our next episode. Goodbye.